As we welcome you and say hello from Sebring International Raceway here for week number 11 here, season 20 here of the AWC Pro Series. Once again from Sebring Raceway, our inaugural race here from Sebring, Florida. And I can't wait to call this race tonight. Hello, my name is Christian Delgado alongside Matthew Prutatsky back up here in the booth one more time here in Sebring. But Matthew, obviously our first race here, Sebring, second road course of the season. I'm really excited to see what these cars can do here.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Christian. And yeah, like you mentioned, first time being back for a few races in the booth, so definitely looking forward to this one. But yeah, this is a track that obviously we see sports car racing in nowadays with the IMSA series, and since they just went to Sebring earlier in the year, we we are really interested to see how they do in the sim with stock cars, which is something that we will likely never get to see, at least on a non-testing perspective. But really cool to be able to enjoy this for the AWC Pro Series in this round. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how they tackle, particularly turns one and the last turn coming onto the straightaway, because you know what they say, respect the bumps, right? This track is very abrasive on the tires, and we're gonna definitely see how these drivers are gonna tackle those turns where you're going through a lot of compression and rebound on the front and rear tires, and so it'll be really cool to see how they approach that. But definitely being an inaugural race, a lot to look forward to today.
Yeah, definitely agree. And I guess for me, I was lucky enough to be able to see a race here at Sebring with these O'Reilly machines as I guess I'm allowed to say this. The Slide Drive Racing League, came here on Tuesdays as Gavin Austin piloted his HVTV Chevy Camaro to win there. And at least I have a little bit of knowledge of how these cars are going to drive, but definitely agree with Matthew. Those bumps definitely back there on the last corner and down there in the turn one, definitely really chaotic. These hard braking zones are really hard on these machines, and they're super easy to overdrive the corners here. So it's going to be interesting to see, how they navigate this. And obviously, it's going to be interesting to see like who's going to show up and show out here. Obviously, only 2 races left here in the chase before we, cut our driver count down to 12 to race for a championship here in the chase. And obviously, something to talk about with that. So actually, let's go ahead and into talk about that a little bit, because now we have some guys who we know are going to be locked into the chase, other guys who are going to have to race their way a little bit. So we see right now Bryson Bird, Enrique Cucalone, Wyatt Roberts have successfully locked their way into the chase here with 2 races left here in the season. Obviously, we go to Talladega next week to end the regular season. Puerto Gamera still in a really good spot there, but technically, if he has a really bad race here and some guys behind get max point, technically get bumped out. But he's Gilberto Gomera, the Van Butewell back there, Jake Scarborough back there in P6, Joel Farlow, and Ryan Ronnebaum rounding out that top 8.
Yeah, and obviously this graphic is really great for being able to see where our cutoff is and where the guys that are sitting pretty are going to be right now. And so obviously, the Fast 8 that Christian just mentioned, those are the guys that we've seen consistently up in the front of the pack. Also indicative is the win count there, and a lot of goose eggs on the 9th through 16th position, starting with Brett Bennett in the 06, followed by Brendan Reed in the 57. Adam Tallon, Carlos Acosta, a lot of speed from those guys, but definitely going to be really close to that cutoff line where Michael Kruger sits on the outside looking in, 16 points out. Christopher Logan in the 70 car, Darren Stapp in the 45, and Jacob Davis in the 5 car. All those guys looking for a chance to race for the cup in the chase, rather, in that top 12 positions. And so 2 more races to go. Christian, I think Sebring is going to be a really big wild card, especially looking at our current fastest guys in practice. I think, obviously we have some of the guys that we're used to seeing up front, Wyatt Roberts, Enrique Cucalone, but we also got a few other guys, Fidel Fabian, right? He's really, out of this chase completely. Blake Lothian, another guy, Cameron Rich. These guys we don't see all the time. Some part-time guys up in the top 10 for sure to look out for today.
Well, and something to talk about here, Matthew, is that the way the chase works, remember, if you win and you're outside, you can take that provisional and be in that wild card, right? And that's what those wins are for, and that's why wins are important, even in the chase. And that's something we're going to have to see coming into the real NASCAR calendar, when that comes to be, I believe that's probably the same way they're going to do it, like they did back in the 20 teens. Is that if you get that win and you're outside the top 20, I believe you have to be within, I think, the top 20 in points or top 21. I believe that's at least the way the AWC guys are doing it. So let's say you have Fidel Fabian who wins tonight at Sebring. He can use that um, provisional to get himself into the wild card and bump out, Adam Tao or Carlos Acosta, who are just in based off points because no one behind has won yet, right? So it's something to talk about. We might have some road course ringers tonight that can go up there and show up and show out and potentially, knock someone out like a Carlos Acosta, like an Adam Tao, like a Brendan Reed back up there in P10, and someone I want to talk about right now as well is the 06. We knew that Brett Bennett couldn't make all the races due to his IRL obligations with the Arkham Menard series, with his spotter responsibilities. I once again do not see him on the track, and he's now only 56 points above the cutoff. If he doesn't show out and show up, that's another goose egg on the points tally sheet.
Yeah, and that's another thing to take consideration of is that not all of these guys are full time coming back week to week to be able to add more and more to their existing point standing. And so for some of these guys that are near or below the cutoff, definitely an opportunity to capitalize on being here and just showing up. And they say it a lot in life, showing up is half the battle. And so definitely going to be interesting to see as we take a look at the last 3 minutes of our practice session here. Cameron Rich followed by Wyatt Roberts. Wyatt Roberts showed up a little later in practice than a lot of these other drivers. Put up a really fast time as we follow along here with the Milo's blue and white Ford Mustang machine. That number 42 car looking pretty good right now in our practice session. Followed by our third place driver in Keenan Jones. He's in that 73 car on pit lane right now. Then Enrique Cucalone pulling off that win in spectacular fashion at Nashville. And then our fifth place driver, Luis Ramirez, in that 98 car. A little throwback to Chase Briscoe from his then Xfinity days. But these O'Reilly cars getting ready to take to qualifying right now.
It's definitely interesting to see how these drivers are setting up here. We've seen some guys come in here and just work on the long run pace. Just try to keep the car on the track, right? And I feel like that's something that you need to do, especially if you're in that spot to just try to make it in on points. You probably don't have the speed to keep up with the Rich or Roberts or Kynan Jones. And, Kynan only racing part-time, so I don't think he is going to be eligible for the chase. But, you think of someone like Wyatt Roberts or Cameron Rich, who have been really up front for every race they've kind of been in outside of, a couple of bad finishes for the 42 due to, getting caught up in damage. Cameron Rich, he's raced a couple times here, and I've always been up here in the top 3, but there's some people, like you see a huge hit to that tire barrier from the 17, go back to the 42, but a couple of guys just setting up their runs a little bit different. We've seen some guys like Roberts and Rich just come out here and practice qualifying here. Rich, almost 8/10 quicker than the rest of the field here in practice, showing that he can at least set a quick lap here from Sebring.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys, spend time off camera, right, in the sim, being able to perfect their craft here at these road courses and street courses, which are, part of this series. A lot of other leagues, they run strictly oval or strictly the NASCAR calendar. Not here in AWC. We're running just about everywhere and anywhere you could think of in terms of the type of track surface, the venue being road course, street course, oval, types of ovals, types of road courses. We've got it all here, and so going to be an amazing opportunity for a lot of these guys that put in that extra time off camera, and we're definitely going to see the cream of the crop here in Sebring. So winding down with the last 30 seconds of practice, everyone getting in their final lap times here as we see the 42 going into the final long sweeping right-hander there. You see the compressions right there, just absolutely destroying those tires. And he'll come to the pit lane, get ready to set his fast lap here.
Practice counting down. Something I want to talk about is obviously we talked about a little bit on the pre-race as well. Tuesday, a lot of these guys racing another O'Reilly league, and they came to Sebring here this last Tuesday as well. Wyatt Roberts was really quick there and on Tuesdays, and there's also some other people who just race in there as well. Look at Bryson Bird also races there on Tuesdays. The 12 of Chastain races there on Tuesday. So a couple of guys have almost a depending on, if they left early or not, but most of these guys have a full, league race under their belt to figure out what they need to do to, at least, get a good, yeah, at least some people know that, like I said before, that they might not have the pace to go up there and battle for, a win here, but at least they know where their pace is at here and set up their lap accordingly and their whole race according to, how they feel comfortable in this car.
Yeah, and you hit the nail right on the head, Christian, because knowing where you're at going into a race weekend here, and going into the qualifying is huge because you need to know where you're at as a driver, and you need to know where your car is at, and you need to find the middle ground between those two, and be able to maximize your starting position. But you don't want to try to overdo it and do too much in qualifying, especially if you know you have that long run speed. And for those guys that have put many laps on the track here, we're definitely going to be able to see, who's going to be able to run up front after a while, because this track does reward drivers who take care of their tires. It does reward drivers who keep their cars clean. And though track position is very important because of the difficulty of passing in the infield section, which we will see shortly once we get this race going, there's still a lot of emphasis on that long run speed and being able to get around people on the straightaway where you can pass and outbrake people, which you can do if you save your tires properly and have that grip in those bumpy areas that we've been mentioning this whole time. Another thing you just saw right there is the runoff. There is grass and dirt right on the side of this track with a little bit of curb. We also have some areas, as you saw right there, that are paved over. So, as a driver, you need to be mindful of where you can and can't afford to make a mistake, because if you drop a tire off, you might end up in the wall.
Well, and once again here with qualifying, remember we do have 2 laps here that they can set. That's why they extended qualifying out to 10 minutes versus the 5 that we do at our traditional ovals. Obviously, it takes a good amount of time just to get going here. Not even including the out lap here, but you see Blake right now coming through the last couple sets of corners to start his first time lap. But you also have to talk about with Matthew with the dirt and stuff. You can't make a mistake here in the sim, right? You can't get up there and try to test the waters here. If you get into the dirt in the wrong spot, you go off on the paved stuff just enough, you get that 1x, you get that off track, that invalidates the lap time here. So, I guess that's the downside of being on the sim versus in real life, where you can maybe push the car a little bit harder, figure out where you can maybe cut the track a little bit more. But you're in the sim, you got to be a little bit more tidy with your inputs.
No, and you're completely right. And thinking about that approach that you just talked about, as a driver, Christian, who spent a lot more time than I have in the sim, with your approach in qualifying versus race pace, what kinds of differences at a road course are you trying to tackle? Are you throwing it further into the corner and kind of killing the curb, so to speak, and trying to just milk every ounce of lap time out of the corners here as possible? Or are you trying to kind of just know where you're at, see where your car's at, and just not make a mistake because of what you just mentioned and the penalty that you could get if you drop a tire off and get that penalty?
Well, I think it depends on driver to driver, right? If you feel really comfortable on the track, right, you know where to push, you know where to, where you can, lean on some of the off tracks and stuff, right? Then yeah, maybe you can push your car a little bit more. But if you're not comfortable, right, if maybe your car, maybe that's going to qualify outside the top 10, I think it's just better just to get a lap down versus to try to get a good lap and put yourself in a bad spot, getting yourself a 1x, having to start all the way from the back, right? See Blake, ooh, a little sideways here.
Oh man,
going down Sunset Drive, gonna keep it going. I don't know if that'll be a 2x for a loss of control, but luckily he still has 1 more lap, 5 more minutes to figure out something else here in the 35 machine.
Yeah, that was definitely a close one there. And more people are going to be taken to the track here. We'll follow along with them and update you guys on how they're doing in their hot laps. I think right now, with the track conditions and where the drivers are at with their cars, I would hope and assume that everyone kind of has a feel of where they're at, and I don't anticipate that anyone's going to be pushing it too hard, and you know, finding an area where they're off the track. But turn one right there is definitely one of those corners where you're carrying the most speed, and is probably the highest likelihood, especially during the race with other cars around you, where you could go off. Right now in qualifying, I doubt we'll see too much of that. But that braking zone, I think, is going to be one of the biggest things to watch out for here. And I think a lot of time can be made up there, and it'll be really interesting to see which driver can maximize that braking zone into turn one.
You're going to bring up a point that I was going to talk about as well, Matthew. Is those hard braking zones. That's where you make up the time, right? That's where you figure out how hard you can push the car, and that's where the time is made here. That's why you see Cameron Rich top of the board with the 213, right? You can figure out, how to push those braking zones a little bit harder. He knows how to finesse the car, do the weight shift around these S's and stuff like that to keep the most pace in the car that he can. So, see him currently top of the board here, 213, or Wyatt Roberts just 2 tenths back, 213.6. So, Wyatt the S is going to get ready to complete his second lap to see proof here in this 42 machine.
Yeah, and Wyatt Roberts, one of those drivers, still looking for a win here, but has had so much speed. We've talked to him countless times in the post-race interview segment of our broadcast, and he's one of those drivers that does his due diligence every weekend, keeps the car clean for the most part, has a lot of pace, but obviously doesn't have any wins to show for it. But I think Wyatt Roberts, once again, as we go to a non-oval, is going to be a factor for sure, and maybe with this new paint scheme, he'll be able to pull it off. But Wyatt Roberts, definitely one of those guys that I think has definitely the ambition to go out there and win, given that he's had the speed, he's had the car, and definitely the driver combination to get that done. But with the level of competition that we have here in the AWC Pro Series, definitely a lot of others to look out for as well.
Yeah, it looks like everybody's slower on that second lap. Second lap for Cameron and Wyatt were in the 14th. Obviously, you see them, their fastest lap, 213. So that's already something you have to talk about. Is maybe the tire fell off early, right? At 213 on the first lap, all the way back to a 14 for that second lap, right? And you know that they're going to push as hard as they can. They continue to get more lap time out of it. And those are the two, the fastest two drivers on the track. So you already see that kind of lap disparity even after one lap. That's going to be something to talk about throughout the race.
Yeah, that is a really big disparity that you mentioned, and I really think, I mean, knock on wood, and hopefully I'm not being I'm not being someone who's propagating the broadcaster curse, but I think we're gonna probably see the likes of the same people we usually see up front, the guys who are good at taking care of their tires, because I think that is exactly what you're talking about, Christian, is with regard to the tire wear, the guys that are going to be able to save their tires, I think that's going to be the name of the game here. And right now, I think despite the the top three having pretty comparable lap times, it may come down to someone further back in the field, 5th through 15th maybe, who's able to save well and get on and off pit road clean, and really just cross their T's and dot their I's, right? And really be able to take advantage here, as we see Matthew Chastain completing his second time lap. I'm also wondering if some of these other drivers are opting to not take a time here, start further in the back of the field. But we have a field of, I believe, 21 cars.
It looks like it's going to be about, 20, 21 cars here, but it's going to be interesting to see. We have a little bit of time while we're finishing up qualifying. Let's go ahead and talk to you. It looks like your peripheral pole sitter here, of Cameron Rich here up in the booth. Hey, Cameron, it's Christian and Matthew up here in the HVT booth. Got a copy?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Well, looks like unless something, someone pulls something out of their rear end here at the end, looks like you will be our pole sitter here for qualifying. So, first of all, congratulations on the good lap time. But, obviously, Cameron, we've seen you've had speed here at these road courses. You're really quick at Chicago Street. Now, what's the goal? What's kind of the mindset coming into this new track here in Sebring Raceway?
Well, the track's like 130 hell something degrees, so keep the tires on it, really. That's going to be the main goal, and then just no mistakes, because when the tires, or when the track's that hot, I mean, the tires just kind of blow out after a couple laps here. So pretty much that.
Talk to us a little bit about the bumps going into turn one and coming out of the last corner, because those look pretty abrasive on the car.
Oh yeah, it's Sebring. I mean, I've done a lot of laps here in other vehicles. Done the 12 hours. I don't know how many times, and just love this racetrack. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot, and especially with the hot tires and everything like that, it kind of they feel like basketballs after a couple laps. So yeah, it's pretty violent, but I mean that's kind of what makes Sebring Sebring.
Finally, you have a lot of drivers who, we know can be up and battle for you for position here. Obviously, what is kind of the mindset here? Obviously, you talked about the tires underneath you, but is there going to be an urgency to maybe get away here, or you just try to find a pace and kind of just settle in here early on?
I mean, I'm going to be respectful, of course. There's a lot of guys around me, like you said, that are they're full time race for championships. I'm just racing for a win. If for some reason, I mean, like Wyatt or Fidel or someone around me gets a really good run and passes me, I'm obviously not gonna run them off the track or something like that. But gonna go ahead and try to get a win, because I haven't got one this year, and I would love to do that.
We definitely think if you're going to get it done, tonight's going to be a good place to do it. Obviously, we've shown your pace here at these road courses, but getting ready to go green here. 35 laps here from Sebring. We wish you good luck, and we appreciate your time up here in the booth.
Yep, thanks guys. Have a good one.
Cameron Rich, your pole sitter here from Sebring, and obviously, something's have to look at here throughout the whole rest of the race here. But let's go ahead. Look at your starting lineup here tonight. Look at your starting grid. Start week 11. Cameron Rich, obviously, we just talked to him up here in the booth. Wyatt Roberts going to be that P2 driver back there in the 42. Luis Ramirez back there in the 98. Good lap by him, as well as Fidel Fabian in the 51. Kynan Jones in the 73. And Bryson Bird round out 5th and 6th. 7th will go to Blake Lothian in that number 35, alongside Gilberto Gamero. Running out the top 10, Jake Scarborough and Enrique Cucalone back there in that 22.
Taking a look at the remaining starting positions here. 11th place, Adam Towle in the 34 car. Next to him going to be Joel Farlow in that 24 car. Vic Bloom in the 49. I haven't seen him often. Going to be interesting to see how he takes to the track here at Sebring. Matthew Chastain in the 12 car. Then Carlos Acosta in the 02 car. Definitely not the lap time he wanted, starting back in 15th. Sam Boutwell in the 47, as well as Brendan Reed in the 57, as well as Olivia Hammond in the 54, Matt Steiner in the 38, Dawson Allen in the number 10 car, Ryan Ronnebaum representing HVTV in the 7 car starting 21st, and Christopher Logan in the 70 car, rounding out your top 22 drivers here in this field. So 22 drivers at Sebring International Raceway. A pretty hefty field here. A nice nice group of guys and one gal to have a good race here, I think. And I'm really going to be curious to see, how respectful everyone is going into turn one, given that this is going to be the first time, other than practice, that everyone's kind of really raced with others around them. But certainly the first time with a large pack like this, Christian.
Definitely going to be interesting to see, who's going to be aggressive here in the turn one, who's going to back out, and then we'll probably see a lot of drivers back out. But we take a look at our race weather, and our pole sitter Cameron Rich kind of gave us a little bit of insight here. Air temperature of 86, but look at that track tip, 126 degrees, 23% humidity with little to no wind. Clear skies out here in Sebring, Florida, but 126 track temp. That is hot. It is slick. Look for that to be something to talk about later in the race.
Yeah, and those track conditions do affect the car, and especially at a track like this where you have a lot of long and tight corners. So a mix of both worlds here with the driver ability that they're going to have to exhibit to be able to overcome that challenge of the slick track conditions. But I think with these guys, especially these guys up front here that have set those good lap times in qualifying, they're more than ready to tackle that challenge.
Definitely going to be interesting to see who can be aggressive on the start. We talked about the tire fall off, and I feel like that just insinuates maybe push a little bit harder if you're further down the back to make up some lap time before that tire fall off starts, and everybody's just going to have to be kind of forced to sit in line and run their race, right? Make up some time while you can, and don't let the leaders get out in front and try to race each other for this win here. Make up some time while you can. before the tires fall off here. But don't overdo it, right? Because you don't want to overdo the tires early and just have to try to stop the bleeding throughout this whole first run here. But 35 laps here from Sebring. No stage breaks here in the AWC Pro Series. No fast repairs in AWC Pro Series. I believe we're looking at our race day, race day info. Yeah, looks like no fast repairs, no nothing here for tonight's race. So that's something we have to talk about as well. You know, you cannot make a mistake here. Do not wreck this car, especially if you're someone trying to get into the chase or stay in the chase picture. You know, Sebring, tough track here. Gonna be interested to see how they can hold on here 35 laps.
Yeah, gotta keep the car clean, like you said, Christian. Gotta keep the tires underneath you. And for all these drivers in this big group right here, a little bit unlike the sports car starts where we got the staggered start with the different classes. Not here in the AWC Pro Series. We got 22 drivers all bunched up here ready to go green.
In the interest to see what we can do here. You're going to see that pace car, hard left turn down pit road. And we're going to hand it off to Barton to Flagman. We're green here for week 11 here from Sebring. They're already side by side here for the lead. Cameron Rich going to take the point here over Wyatt Roberts, and you see a little bit of a single filing out throughout the rest of the field there. See now Luis Ramirez up the P3, outside into the gravel. Here comes the 73 of Kynan Jones on the outside here going into turn 5.
Yeah, you saw the 98 drop the right rear tire off the dirt there, allowing the 73 car, I believe it is, to get to his outside. That red and yellow machine right there. Definitely not what you want to drop a tire off when there's a lot of cars around you. You could have ended a lot worse, but there are definitely some areas where you cannot absolutely go side by side. You guys will get together and get contact, and that's not what you want in this first lap of the race. But I mean, for these guys that are trying to see where their handling's at and, you know, how comfortable they are racing around guys going side by side, definitely the time to do it early on.
And on board with the 73 here, and we talked about being aggressive to make up some spots here. He's not your biggest mover of the field, but up 2 spots here early on this start, and you hard to see those race leaders right there, right in front of him, trying to run them back down.
Yeah, wasting no time, this car right here, riding on board with. And then Wyatt Roberts obviously hunting down our leader, Cameron Rich. He's definitely been keeping pace throughout the infield section here. And talking about guys that have gone up a few positions, how about a guy that's gone down several positions? Gilberto Gomera down 7 spots in 15th starting, or in 15th position currently in that pink and white machine. Definitely not the infield section that he wanted, as I think we might have had someone go straight there. I'm not quite sure, but Ryan Ronnebaum in the 7 trailing Gilberto Gomera in the 23.
Already a little bit of left front damage. You see the 47 off in the back. Outwell, not the start he wants here to start his lap too. But yeah, I mean, this is what we saw. This is what we talked about, right? You gotta keep the car clean. You gotta be mistake free, and a lot of drivers already having issues early, and then it's just a big hole to dig out of now. You see, back there, Outwell, 26 seconds already off the pace here on lap 2.
Yeah, and that just goes to show how on top of it you have to be to maintain lap time, and especially with a lot of cars around you, you know, you're going to be taking it a little bit easier getting into the braking, as we see Bryson Bird, the left side of the 51 car, Fidel Fabian. He'll take that 5th place position, keep that over Bryson Bird. And Bryson Bird, one of those guys that has just been undeniably fast at all kinds of racetracks this season so far in the AWC Pro Series. He's going to take it to the inside with Fidel Fabian on his outside. Maybe a little bit of contact there. A little bit of tire drop off on the left side. Same with Bryson Bird on the right side. These guys are going at it.
And we know Fidel, he will not just move over and let you have it. If you want to pass this 51, you got to earn it, right? And it doesn't matter. Bryce Bird leading the points, he said, hey, I'm trying to win to get into the chase. You already are locked in. If you want to get around me, you're going to have to earn it. Obviously, you see Fidel hold on to this 5th place spot for now. And but already, you're already starting to see some of these guys start to spread out a little bit. him and Rich almost a second and a half gap over back to Pete White Roberts.
Yeah, and Cameron Rich with that clean air, nobody out in front of him to worry about. He can just take his line, you know, he can go as wide as he needs to, go as deep into the braking zone as he'd like, or back it up as much as he'd like, not having to worry about anyone yet on his rear bumper. But you see Wyatt Roberts on the straightaway section here, able to keep it within a second of that leader. However, that gap to the third place position with Jones just under 4 seconds. So I think the class of the field is these two guys right here so far. Obviously, we saw that with qualifying, indicative by their lap times, starting first and second respectively. But I think Wyatt Roberts being able to pull away from third place, definitely someone to worry about if you're Cameron Rich leading the race.
Yeah, and something I want to talk about, and I'll go back to kind of the telemetry I have from that Tuesday race I watched as, you know, I was crew chiefing Gavin Austin in his 6 machine. Wyatt Roberts, you know, Gavin Austin was the class of the field there on Tuesday. He led all 25 laps and was really quick, but this 42 was running him down at the end. We saw how quick Gavin was at the Chicago street race here earlier this season, and Wyatt Roberts here at Sebring was running him down and in a hurry. There at the end, I don't know, maybe something clicked with this 42 machine or what, but on Tuesday night, but I don't know, maybe he just finally found a way to get around the track there early. I mean, late in that race, and is starting to figure it out now. But if I'm Wyatt Roberts, I'm not going to be indicative to, you know, being a little bit slower than the 17 right now, because he seemed to have a little bit better long run pace than even Gavin did on Tuesday.
Yeah, and I think knowing that Wyatt just needs to, you know, bide his time here, realize that he has a good car underneath him, realize that he has the seat time, like you mentioned, Christian, in the slide job series, to be able to do what he does best, which is get into the car and go fast. And compared to a lot of these other guys, you know, you can put as much time as you want into the sim in a practice session where it's just you and the track, right? But being in the race environment, it's like practicing how you play, right? Except, I mean, I know it's obviously another league, but for him to be able to have that seat time and more familiarity with the racetrack, with the car, definitely working in the favor of Wyatt Roberts as he runs down Cameron Rich in first place.
Cameron's starting to pull away just a little bit now, and obviously Cameron's a very good road racer in his own right, and obviously you have to think about the track temp is probably different than on Tuesday. I don't think they're running 130-degree track temp, right? So this is a lot more on edge than it was on Tuesday, right? And maybe that is an advantage for Cameron Rich, because Wyatt had, you know what, 25 laps, probably 50 laps of track time on a colder track where there was more grip, where there was more reliability underneath that car to like push it a little bit harder. Now you come here to the AWC Pro Series where it's 130 degrees. You see the car sliding all or throughout the corner here. To ride on board with Wyatt, you can definitely tell that, you know, you cannot really push this car that hard here, especially here in these hard braking zones.
You know, you're totally right, Christian, and I completely agree, because it is almost a double-edged sword because of the fact that it's not identical conditions to what Wyatt Roberts was doing earlier in the week. And so with that in mind, there's definitely a lot of consideration that you have to put onto if your familiarity with the track is on the wrong basis, right? If it's on the wrong track conditions that you're basing your braking zones off of, right? Obviously, practice and qualifying gave him a better idea of what the current track conditions were going to be, but still, nonetheless, it's information that is not entirely helpful if you're basing anything off of that previous experience in the seat. So it's going to be awesome if he's able to overcome that and still be able to pull off a good finish here, but definitely running strong in second place right now.
I've noticed right now, at least these first couple laps, that the 17 is a little bit better in the infield here, and then Wyatt really catches him on these like long straights with the braking zones. He's way better on the braking zones versus the 17. 17's a little bit better through like the kind of finesse corners where you kind of have to just put the car in the right spot, get the weight transfer right. But Wyatt catches back up here in these hard braking zones when we go down, you know, Sunset Avenue, down here in the turn one. This is where he makes up that time.
Yeah, and you talked about the weight transfer, Christian. When you consider the bumps here, you got to consider the body roll of the car and your ability to turn the wheel and accommodate the bumps and the change in the contact of those front and rear tires, right? how you're applying the throttle, how you're applying the steering inputs. All that has to do with your ability to pretty much in the sim react to the force feedback, which is obviously respective to each person's car. But I think that that's a really, really interesting thing that not many people will consider, is the ability to detect different things with force feedback. And that may come down to even the type of wheel that you have, right? Or if you're on controller, speaking of like Enrique Cucalone, right? All these things, all these sensory inputs are helping you behind the seat of the car. And so I think that that's something that is really fascinating, honestly.
I mean, it's just, and that's when you're getting into that debate of like what to use for. I mean, if you be competitive, right? Everybody has their own preferences, but it's always going to be that debate of like what's better, right? And what's the best thing to use here, especially on the roadside, right? Ovals, I feel like, at least, you know, you don't need a lot of detailed force feedback to get a lot out of the car. You see coke drivers who race with no force feedback, right? Versus on the roadside where there's a lot more, you know, guys who rely on, you know, the higher force feedback wheels and the cool, you know, formula rims and everything else to get pace out of the car. So we come to a road course here, especially here with these big heavy stock cars that want to slide around. Might come down, you know, equipment, but you know, Wyatt had it really good section through there. Gonna get it underneath, almost to underneath the second here through this first part of the infield.
Yeah, and as I look further back in the running order here, I'm seeing some of the guys that we're not used to seeing up front too much, but we see Fidel Fabian. Maybe a little bit of contact there with the 98 of Ramirez, but he's definitely holding his own in that top 5. Right there, sitting in 5th, as well as Bryson Bird. We saw him earlier being a little aggressive, trying to get past the 51 car. He's still holding his own right behind him. Maybe a little bit of a battle brewing between them if they get closer once again. And then the 77 of Scarborough, followed by Blake Lothian right behind him in the 35. Then Joel Farlow in that 9th place position in the 24 car, all the way back there on the straightaway. You see running that DuPont throwback scheme, Arctic sponsorship, looking like the DuPont logo. Very cool scheme for the 24 car. And Enrique Cucalone rounding out that top 10. So almost 3 main packs here. You got your leaders, the top 2, and then you've got your 3rd through, what would that be? 3rd through 8th running positions in that second larger pack. And then you got your 8th on back, pretty much. Or 10th on back, rather. Joel Farlow and guys running for position around the top 10, but definitely a lot of battles to look out for here.
Definitely agree, and I think this 98, I don't know if it's Ramirez here, but I think he's kind of holding these guys up a little bit, and it's kind of back everybody back together. I think the 51's a little bit better, but you see a huge block there. I don't think the 51's going to take kindly to that for much longer. As we know, the 51's aggressive.
Oh, yeah.
Turn left down here, try to cut the corner there. 98 with a better run off the top. And as a driver, there's a point in time where you just get really frustrated. Like, man, like, I'm faster, just let me go. But, you know, you don't have to do that, right? If you're the 98, you know, you're trying to keep that spot. You're trying to stay in this top 4. And you know, if one of those drivers up in the top 3 make a mistake, you get a podium spot, right? You get that energy at the end of the race. And you have every right to defend as much as you want. And it's up to the guy behind to pass you cleanly or not pass you cleanly, right? And I guess it's their own prerogative, but I think Fidel's starting to maybe get a little bit frustrated here, trying to get back to the 98. The bad thing about that is, like, if you get frustrated, it's really easy to burn yourself up, trying to, you know, dive bomb and do kind of stuff to make that car in front react to you. And that's how you burn yourself up, and then that's when you have to start to play the defense. Those guys like the 53, the 77 behind you.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, Christian. You saw right there the rear end stepping out as he went over that right-hander curb on the corner exit. I think Fidel Fabian is definitely in a mistake-prone position if he keeps this up, because you see Bryson Bird there peeking to the inside, trying to make that work on the braking zone, very close to that inside wall, but the 51 car getting very frustrated. And like you say, Christian, when you get frustrated, you're more likely to make a mistake. You're more likely to not cross your T's and dot your I's, and you're more likely to, you know, find a bad habit, you know, get the best of you. And so for the 51 car, definitely sawing on the wheel a little bit in that infield section, as we saw. You see just how close he gets to that wall there, and then having to correct for that wheel spin on exit. He's definitely going to be trying to get by this 98 as much as he can.
I mean, and to be fair, you know, I think everybody behind here, maybe outside of, you know, 77 to 53, making mistakes here, you know, getting the curve, getting the car all yada out. You see the 51 with the huge slide. And, you know, it's not that 98's holding them up. It's just not only that, the 51 can't pass him, right? So, and because of that, look at that. Now there's a 5-car battle here for fourth on back. A little bump from the 51. Now here comes the 77 trying to make a move on the 53.
Oh, Bryson Bird. Oh, man, a huge slide. You saw him save the race car there. He's definitely going to drop back a few positions here. One at least. And that'll allow the 35 of Blake Lothian to maybe pounce on your current points leader of the 53 car. And yeah, just a small mistake like that. Christian, talk a little bit about how sliding your car around can change the handling, because, you know, you see once again the back end step out, a little bit of tire smoke. But when you're behind the wheel of the sim, you know, and you overcook your tires getting into a braking zone, or having the back end step out in a turn, you know, what does that do to your handling, and how do you come to terms with that?
Yeah, well, once again, I think it depends on, you know, from track to track here, but like especially here with how slick and hot the track temp is, you cannot slide the tires. I mean, you can afford to maybe do a little micro correction and micro slides and just keep that a little bit out. I guarantee you that's what Richard and Robert are doing back there up in the front. But you cannot be like drawing it out like you see some of these drivers do, because that's just going to continue to heat up your stuff. And really the only way that you can cool those tires back down is to back off, right? Get the tires cooled back down and hope you can catch back up to the car in front. And obviously that's not, you know, a recipe for success. Is to heat them up, back off, you know, lose maybe a second, half a second, and then try to go run them back down. You need to be, you know, precise with the inputs, be pretty tidy with your inputs, and hope that, you know, that you get raced respectfully, and if you make a move maybe inside or outside of a car, that it'll give you the room to make the pass.
Yeah, and as we were riding on board there with Bryson Bird, we saw the 98 car get passed by the 51 machine. He's still holding his own there in the 5th place position. That's Ramirez, but Jake Scarborough putting a little bit of distance between himself and Bryson Bird after that little bit of sideways action from the 53 car. You see, Bryson Bird just lost a little bit of touch with those guys. Not quite sure if he's going to be able to get back up there, but right now Jake Scarborough also trying to get by that 98 machine. You saw he was right on his rear bumper on corner exit of turn 1. Right now, just trying to work his way around, and you see fade to the inside right there. That's going to make him go a little bit wider here, going into the braking zone. He'll have to get right back in line. But right now, I mean, you're just shaping up your competition, right, Christian? When you have a guy that's slower in front of you, you're just trying to find where you can find a window to pass, where he'll slip up. But while you're doing that, you just got to make sure that you yourself don't make a mistake.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things that I'm seeing big deal. I think he's trying to do a little bit of mind games here with the 98. This on he dived it inside on really a corner you want to kind of arc into, right? And then unfortunately it gave up a lot of time on that one exit there that you mentioned he went wide on. I think that's just him just being like, hey, I'm going to put my nose in wherever I can and hopefully see the 98 maybe drive it into the... It's a little bit of a bumper to the 98.
Contact!
That might be a slowdown.
Yeah, he's off the track there. Way off the track. That's gonna let Scarborough by, rather, as we see through a little bit of 3 wide here on the backstretch at Sebring. Yeah.
Lothian bottom of 3 here, gonna try to get around the 53 and the 98.
Oh man. Great stuff out of these guys. And meanwhile, the 4th place car, Fidel Fabian, just riding away in the distance. You see him all the way up there in the racetrack, passing the screen on the left side. Jake Scarborough going to try to break the draft here. You see the 35 car dive to the inside. He's going to try to work his way past the 98. Man, that was really tight on the backstretch.
And really, you know, I've been looking at Blake a lot because I feel like he's a good, stable kind of test subject you can have, because he's been in these cars in real life, you know, driving for Joey Gase. he knows how these cars drive quite literally. You know, he's been in them and he's been, you know, competitive, and at least the equipment he's been given, obviously, we know that, you know, that's not, no offense to Joey and everybody who works hard on that team, but that's not winning equipment. And, you know, we know that Blake knows how to get in these cars and be fast, right? Or he wouldn't be given opportunities, right, anymore. And I feel like he's a good, stable, you know, kind of test subject that we can kind of bounce off of, you know, versus these sim drivers, right? And you're starting to see him now, you know, and it's been time and time again, I'll say this again, real life drivers probably are some of the best tire savers on the sim, and you're starting to see that now as Blake's starting to maybe make his way up through the field up here inside the top 6.
Yeah, and like you mentioned a while ago, Christian, that 98 car was really holding those guys up behind him, made him run single file like a train, almost front bumper to rear bumper. And right now you see him starting to fade out a little more. There's a huge side of the 98. He might go around there, actually. I'm not so sure he saved that race car. He's going to be off the track there for sure.
Whoa,
man.
Keeps it going. Here comes Joel Farlow now in that throwback machine, going to try to make a move on the 98. Joel's starting to run down some of the slower guys in that little 5-car pack here. Joel starting to maybe figure this out, and I think it's cool. You know, if you're going to run a Rainbow Warrior scheme, it better be at a road course, because, you know, back in the 90s, this was basically, you know, Jeff's bread and butter were these road courses. He was so good back in the day on the road courses here with those old style, you know, Gen 2, Gen 3, and even Gen 4 cars, right? So, kind of fitting that he comes here to Sebring in that car.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, it's nice that these guys have fun with the streams that they run at different venues here. And for Throwback Weekend, definitely cool to see that of Joel Farlow as he runs inside the top 10, trying to run down that 98 car. And right now, Bryson Bird still finds himself almost netting the same position that he was in earlier before the battling with Fidel Fabian in the 51 car, as well as that 3 wide we saw in the backstretch just a while ago. Able to escape unscathed for the most part. As we see the 98 once again going off the track. That will certainly open up an opportunity possibly for Fidel Fabian, or not Fidel Fabian, sorry, Joel Farlow in the 24 car. But yeah, right now, I mean, these guys further back in the pack, definitely going white knuckling here at Sebring.
I mean, it started the show, like, and we talked about it early in the show. We know who the 2 guys we're going to be racing for the win are. Be a race leader, it's going to be Wyatt Roberts. They've gapped even Wyatt Roberts almost 12.5 seconds back, you know, to 3rd place driver of Jones, and he's kind of on his own island. But he is slowly getting ran down by the 51 here. So, but the 51, honestly, not bad, right? He's still about a second slower than your race leader, and I just feel like we need a mistake out of the 17. We kind of saw this with Gavin Austin when he drove here in the 6 machine. Probably going to need a mistake out of the 17 to give anybody outside of Wyatt Roberts a shot here.
Yeah, you're totally right, Christian. And another thing with the 51 car, who we were following along with that fight about mid-pack, mid-top 10, I think he could have gained even more time if he would have got around the 98 car sooner. And right now, obviously, I think he's on pace to get by the 73 car of Jones in the 3rd place position. He's about a little under a second back, but I'm not so sure he's going to be able to fight for contention for this win. But if he's able to keep it clean, take care of his stuff, maybe we get a caution, bunch up the field. He could very well be up in the front of this pack, fighting it out with these 2 fast race cars in the front.
And that's the one caveat about road racing, is we're probably not going to get a caution, right? We need probably a catastrophic one that can really back up. I mean, I'm not going to say it's not possible. We had a caution, you know, at Chicago versus, granted, it was a street course, and when there's a car, you know, stopped perpendicular, it's kind of hard to not throw it there, and obviously we saw that happen. Here at Sebring, there's a lot of space for the cars to get off the track, or if they make a mistake, to, you know, give space for the drivers to, you know, safely get around. So I doubt we're going to get a caution here. Outside of maybe, you know, a fun caution, which I don't think we'll see here in AWC, especially with the guys up front, and that could definitely change the outlook of the play out of the chase here. So, but it's going to be interesting to see, you know, what's going to go on and what's going to happen. But, you No, right now it's still Cameron Rich starting to even pull away from the 42 of Roberts. Almost 2.5 seconds back to the 42.
Yeah, and something I just noticed is Bryson Bird dropped several more positions after we started focusing on the leaders. He was running about 7th after that exchange we were following along with earlier. Maybe a little bit of off-track action for him. But you saw the 98 just go by in front of him. And that 98 car has been all over the place. All kinds of craziness that he's been through. But
Oh, man.
Bryson Bird. Oh, yeah, you saw some contact. Wow, what an incredible spin there. That was really out of nowhere. Man.
Bryson, yeah, and the 98 kind of going for the same spot there. They go around. 98 gets out in front, but yeah, both of them go around there. That's huge track position loss by both those drivers. Both of them equally. We're both struggling there on that. Really, after that first kind of 5 laps, but two contact between both those. Obviously, no caution. They were both off the racing surface, and yeah, that's just a big loss by both those drivers now.
Yeah, that was massive. I had no idea it was that severe, but right now as we follow back along with Wyatt Roberts, a 2-second gap between him and Cameron Rich now. And if you're second place, Wyatt Roberts rather, right now, you know, you're just trying to take care of your stuff, right? You don't have the pace to necessarily go out and catch Cameron Rich. He's running his own race right now, Wyatt Roberts, and I think the smart thing to do right now would just be try and just take care of your equipment and, you know, make it further. Make it further by taking care of your tires, right? You don't want to shoot yourself in the foot and run off track or put it in the wall maybe because you're trying to do too much running in second. And right now, obviously, you know, that's not a position you want to put yourself in. Is one where you're gonna have to worry about a third place car catching up to you. But right now, obviously, as you see on the leaderboard, about a 20-second gap to Jake Scarborough, who, by the way, got by a lot of other cars, unless we're having pits right now.
Fidel have an issue here. It looks like maybe Fidel might have had an issue as well. We'll take a look at it.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe.
He was running back there in P3. Yeah, Fidel with the spin here.
Wow. Unbelievable
Going
stuff.
into the S's, he loses the time. And then Kynan Jones also turning up front. I think he might have pit because I don't see him. Yeah, he made a pit stop on lap 11 from the looks of it. So yeah, he was one of the first drivers to come down pit road. So he just came down pit road. So I mean, I guess green flag pit stops. Now we're in that. I don't know when that field window is gonna be. I know back when we were racing on Tuesday, I think the max you could go was maybe 17 laps, which I think is worth trying this stretch, right? And maybe trying to just make it a one-stop, right? I mean, you're going to spend so much time down pit road, and especially with how much gaps have been formed already, I think it might be worth it. Maybe try to stretch it too, you know, maybe lap 17, trying to make it a one-stop.
Yeah, if they can do that, and they can comfortably make it to that lap 17, maybe lap 18 marker, that will certainly make them last to the end, especially with saving. So I'm not assuming that Cameron in the lead has been saving, but if that's the approach after that first pit stop that they make, definitely possible if you're able to reach that comfortably, that 17 lap mark.
Lake's starting to run down to 77 here. Scarborough slowly but surely, obviously 24 seconds off the pace, but you know, a battle is a battle, right? And it's our job to show you them, but and this is the battle for a podium spot, so not only that, you know, you get an interview at the end of the race, shout out your sponsors and everything else, right? So, Lake slowly running down to 77 of Scarborough. So he took the P3 spot away after the mistake of the 51 of Fidel went around here. Now this will be the battle for the last podium spot.
Yeah, you see it's just so hard coming off corner exit there to keep it on the racetrack, but these guys do an amazing job keeping their left and right sides on the pavement and on those curbs with a little bit of dropping tire into the dirt on occasion. You'll see a puff of dirt every now and then, but right now, the 35 car doing his due diligence, trying to run down the 77 car. As you can see on that 77 machine, nice red and white paint scheme for him. And Jake Scarborough, definitely one of those guys that we've seen a lot of speed from throughout the season, that 3-wide TV machine here at Sebring. But looking back, obviously, gonna be looking in your mirror every now and then. But as a driver, Christian, you know, how much are you really worried? As you saw a little bit of sideways action from Lothian, how much are you worried of a driver kind of, you know, spooking you out in your rearview mirror? Are you kind of eyes forward here, or are you trying to, you know, match pace with the guy behind you?
I think when you're in this kind of race pace, I don't really feel like you're really stressing too much. Obviously, if he catches you, better. I mean, if you want to race him, you can. If you don't, then let him go. No, the only time that I get really spooked in the car is on the restarts and stuff like that. I mean, it actually happened to me, you know, this last Wednesday. You know, I was at Watkins Glen in the Cup car, and you know, it was at the initial start. You know, lap one of the race, everybody just trying to feel out their car, and someone, you know, drove it in. I think he maybe passed like 4 lanes on going into turn 1, and I got spooked and ended up getting into someone and causing a wreck. But now just because I was looking in the rearview mirror, because I just saw this guy pull out a line, you know, 4 or 5, you know, lanes behind me, and it spooked me, right? And I overdrove the corner trying to give him room, because by the time we got to 1, he was side by side with me, right? Because I was just trying to sit behind. But when it comes to this, you know, part of the race, I just feel like it's more like eyes forward. Try to keep the car on track. Try to just, you know, especially if you like someone like the 77 and the 35, right, who 25 seconds off the pace, you need like both of the 2 drivers up front to like DC or get caught up in a wreck and have to sit down pit road for a couple laps to even give yourself a shot. And now it's just trying to keep the car, you know, on the track and try to get the best spot, get the best finishing position possible right now.
Yeah, you're totally right, Christian. So I think for these guys, it's definitely going to be about just, you know, keeping it clean, keeping it on the racetrack. And so you see the 77 putting a little bit more gap between him and Lothian. But like Lothian, obviously got a lot of speed himself. And right now, taking a look at Wyatt Roberts, he is now 3 seconds off of Cameron Rich for that race lead. So Cameron Rich still able to put down very impressive lap times and continue to grow that gap between him and Roberts. But as pit stops come up, it definitely raises the question: is saving going to be an option to make this a one-stopper? And how feasible is that to not compromise on your race pace? So are we going to see Cameron Rich maybe have slower lap times after that pit cycle? I'm not sure. We have to wait and see.
I'm interested to see, you know, maybe is that why the 42 is backed off a little bit. He's trying to save maybe a couple laps of fuel here, get halfway, and make that pit stop versus the 17 who's just trying to just run his laps out, not really concerned about fuel. He's just concerned about leading the race, right? I'm not sure, right? We'll just have to see when, you know, these front 2 come to pit road, because really this is the only battle that's going to be for the race win is, you know, between the 17 and this 42, and it might come down to fuel right here at the end. So it's going to be interesting to see as we approach, you know, almost halfway here in week 11 here from Sebring.
Yeah, and Cameron Rich, as we take a look at him, definitely just doing a great job behind the wheel, getting down into the braking zone. Haven't really seen an incident or a mistake out of him the entire race. Not even as much as a tire off a curb here. So he's definitely doing a great job as a leader. You know, set the tone, set the pace, and really just robotic with his lap times and being able to consistently draw a gap here. But I think, like you mentioned, Christian, you know, with that consideration of how fast Cameron Rich is, it gives you a lot of freedom and flexibility if you're that second place car of Wyatt Roberts to be able to, you know, maybe try and stretch it out a little more on that fuel strategy, like you mentioned, and give yourself a little bit more breathing room compared to a guy like Cameron Rich, who might be looking at that fuel gauge and thinking, oh man, I'm not too sure if I'm gonna be able to comfortably make this a one-stopper. I might have to save later on. But for Wyatt Roberts, he's definitely going to be able to, I think, have a little more peace of mind if he is, in fact, saving.
Yeah, I mean, at least even now, like, if I'm Roberts now, right, you're 4.5 seconds, almost 4.5 seconds off the race pace. If anything, I'm going to back it down and just try to save now, right? Anyways, like, you're not within striking distance right now of the 17. I mean, you can see him. I mean, the 42 and some of these camera shots are still, you know, in the same shot here. But if you're, you know, the 42, you know, I'm not I'm not anywhere near, you know, striking distance. If he makes a mistake, just go back, save some fuel, and try to make it to that halfway point, and kind of force, you know, Cameron to force his hand a little bit early. If you can't make it, obviously he's gonna have to pit before you do. But if you can, then obviously you guys will probably pit on the same lap, right? Or if we see this, you know, 17 come down pit road here on lap 17, you might see this 42 come down with him, right? And have to react to the 17 just to try to keep up. Just because, you know, we don't know how far the 17 can go. But we're approaching lap 17 now. We're getting down to the nitty gritty of who can make it here in one stop.
Yeah, and not only that, but talking about pit stops, right? When you get into the zone and you get into the groove and rhythm of leading this race, you know, it is an adjustment you have to make just getting on the pit road, getting into your pit box. And so this is far from over with these guys who are going to be coming to pit road pretty soon here. And it'll be really interesting to see who's able to get on and off pit road the cleanest. Maybe that's the competitive edge that Wyatt Roberts has here, is being able to come to pit road and, you know, cross his T's, dot his I's a little better than Cameron Rich, if he's really stretching it out here on fuel. But yeah, pit road is you know, no joke. It is definitely one of those, you know, areas where you could have a lot of problems. You could lose a lot of time. You saw the back end step out just a little bit on the 17 car, but not even as much as a tire's width of stepping out for that rear end. So he is really doing a good job behind the wheel here.
Something I want to talk about here, the 24 started to run down these two cars in front, the 35 and the 77. So Joel, remember, he started way, you know, outside the top 10. He started back there in P12. But, you know, once again, we saw it at Bristol, one of the best tire savers in the field. Starting to use that tire saving to his advantage here. See that 35, you see the 77 right up front there. You know, Joel's in a spy here to maybe get a podium here if he can keep dotting his I's here and hitting his marks.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And right on board here with Joel Farlow. Pay attention to some of these throttle inputs that we can hear. You just got to be so careful on the power down on corner exit, right? Because this is a flat track. You really have no banking to work with you to keep that car gripped on, stuck to the floor. And your throttle inputs and your braking are really gonna dictate how your car rotates, and especially this long right-hander. Here, the throttle just so delicate as we come to pit road here.
So 4th and 5th, Blake Lothian, Joel Farlow, they made it to 17, and actually the two race leaders, they're staying out. So that even means that they can go further on fuel, which is something I didn't expect. But once again, when it comes to Tuesdays, I don't know if they're not running 100% fuel or what's the case there. But the furthest I saw anybody could make it was 17 laps, which is this lap, right? So obviously I could be misinformed on the fuel mileage here, but you'll see the 24, you'll see the 35, Lothian, Farlow out of pit road here. They'll be the first out of your top 5 to come down pit side here, outside of, you know, the 51 of Fidel. And actually, here they come. You know, here come some of the guys who came down pit road right on the back end of these guys.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that I'm thinking about, Christian, is the lap times. These guys are now going to be able to maybe cut into that gap that the leaders set in between them by setting faster lap times with fresh tires. And the longer that the leaders stay out, the longer that deficit is going to shrink. So will we see these guys be able to take the fight closer to the front? That'll be interesting to see. And maybe more problems are prone to occur for those leaders the longer they stay out. We'll have to follow along with that as we see Babion in the 51 car getting some pressure from the 73.
Well, if you take a look at this, these are the two guys who pitted a little bit earlier. They have a 15-second gap back to the 35, right, who just came out. I mean, that's going to slowly close down here. But, I mean, they have a 15-second gap back here. They're sitting back there 4th and 5th. The issue is, can they make it the rest of the way? Obviously, they pitted back on looks like lap 12. So, if anything, if these guys came down, I presume that they can make it the rest of the way. I don't know why they would come down early. So, this might be the first guys who can make it on fuel, as they are, you know, they are 50 seconds behind, you know, Roberts and Scarborough and and Rich and all those guys, but these are the first guys who potentially can make it the rest of the way. I now see them back here in 4th and 5th.
And you saw that 73 car put a lot of distance between him and the 51 car. Little bit of muscle in the 51 out of the way there in the infield section. Coming down the backstretch onto the long right-hander with the bumps going into that front straightaway towards the start-finish line. Yeah, 73 car showing a lot of speed today, but in a really good position here on that pit strategy.
So Fidel actually has not pit yet. That's my apology. So he comes down pit road now. So that makes sense why S73's got a little bit more pace. I think it was because, you know, Fidel had that spin. He hasn't pit yet, so it kind of put him up inside that top 5 situation. Jake Scarborough down pit road as well. That's why I was probably confused there. But Kynan Jones now will move up into the P3 position. Now it's a battle of, you know, when do these race leaders pit? When does Cameron Rich pit, really, right? If I'm Wyatt Roberts, I know I can make it now. If I'm him, I'm going to short pit, right, and hope that I can make up time here on those fresher tires if it's me. Now, you're the only person who can maybe strike on this short pit and actually maybe even get in front of this 17 if you know, try to shorten this, when you come down pit road here this first time, take advantage of those Goodyear Eagles. I mean, you're only 4 seconds back. You've seen a lot of time being made here by short pitting. I mean, you see the 42 potentially come down earlier.
Yeah, I think you could definitely do the undercut here if you're Wyatt Roberts, at least to try and get that deficit down a little bit further. And if you come in on your own terms, right, when you're not flustered from maybe smoking the tires or, you know, sliding it out of the corner and really making the decision to come to pit road because of that, you see him, he actually might come right now. Yeah, down pit road. Wyatt Roberts.
Both the race leaders down pit side here. Wyatt did a good job closing in a little bit of time here. It's just going to be about getting in and out of the box, being consistent here. You cannot slide the car in the box here if you're the 42, if you want a shot at Cameron Rich here. Cameron might have overshot his box, looks like maybe a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. But you also have the outlap on cold tires, right? Who's going to be able to get the power down better on those cold tires? It'll be really interesting to see. Right now, Cameron Rich, the jack drops. He'll be off. Wyatt Roberts hopefully falling right behind him. Maybe a little faster on the stop for Cameron Rich as he's down and away already into turn 1 there, as you can see at the end of the screen. Wyatt Roberts with a pretty significant gap in between him. And then we see, I think that's, yeah, the 73 car of Kynan Jones going down into the braking zone of turn 1. We'll have to see how this all shakes out after this first lap as he goes way wide into the grass.
That's not what you want to do. And even then, you see Kynan, even with the pit strategy, he's still, you know, 13.5 seconds back. So we know the 73's got pace. I just don't know if it's, you know, top 2 pace, unfortunately. We'll see Adam Tal come down pit road. He finally gives up that top 5 position. So this will all cycle back out. So it's Cameron Rich in the lead. Wyatt Roberts back there about 2.5 seconds back. He made up a little bit of time on that pit stop. And Kynan Jones all the way through, almost 14 seconds back. And then Lothian, Barlow, the top 5. Jake Scarborough falls out of the top 5 for the first time. Looks like he might have a little bit of damage on that left side. Maybe some contact with someone.
Yeah, possibly. More than likely contact with somebody, I think, Christian. But yeah, I mean, that gap deficit from Kynan Jones to your leaders, I mean, that just goes to show you just how much space that they put and pace that they have over these guys from the first, I don't know, 17 laps of this race. So, I mean, just really goes to show that they're in a league of their own up towards the front end. Wyatt Roberts able to cut the gap just a little bit from, it was just over 4 seconds when they came to pit lane. But, I mean, right now, you know, doing his due diligence to keep good running position and to keep pace. So, a really good effort so far out of Wyatt Roberts for sure.
And we'll have 16 laps to try to run down the race leader in 17 of Cameron Rich. Yeah, tough task for Wyatt. Obviously, you know, he was been the second place guy. He's been the second fastest guy throughout this whole run. You know, at the start of the race, we thought maybe he might have had a shot at him, but Cameron not really made a mistake all race. Hit every mark. He's not made a mistake yet. Hopefully, we don't, you know, knock on wood, he to do that. But you know, Wyatt, you know, he's kind of kept the gap within, you know, that and a half, 3, I would say 3 to 3.5 second gap. Trying to keep the 17 in sight just in case something does happen. 17. Maybe if it's under his own a quarter, maybe, you know, maybe he gets caught up by a lap car here as we start to see a little bit of lap traffic in front of this number 17.
Yeah, and that's something that Cameron Rich hasn't had to worry about too much because he's had the clean track, he's had the clean air running in the front of the pack here. But I mean, Cameron Rich just got to make sure that you're not putting yourself in a mistake-prone position, and so far he's done a really good job of that. He has not pushed his car too hard ever, really. Still keeping it on the pavement, hardly on the curb, if at all, but certainly not dropping a tire off anywhere. And so, as far as he's concerned, he definitely has the track figured out. But passing as he closes up a lot here, a little bit of contact with the bumper there. He'll just go right by, motor on by there to the outside of that blue machine.
Chastain just lets him go there. Good sportsmanship out of the 12. And it's not, you know, it wasn't Chastain's fault why that happened. He kind of caught him in a bad spot. Cameron did, and you know, Matthew did the right thing and trying to get out of the way, but you know, unfortunately did cost, you know, the leader just a little bit of time here. You know, I would say about a 10th or 2. Still gonna, you know, he's got the pace of motor by, maybe push a little harder, maybe extend that gap back out to maybe that 3.5 second gap.
Yeah, that gap is, if I'm not mistaken, that gap is shrinking just a little bit between Rich and Roberts, but possibly because of him having to get through that lap traffic there. But yeah, 3 seconds still a lot of time to make up, especially at a track where you have the long straightaways and you have the infield section. So, you know, there's only so much area where you can make up time if you are Wyatt Roberts. And if you're going to try to do it, you know, you want to do it sooner rather than later while you still have the grip on the tires, right? And you're not necessarily equalized with the leader who, you know, the longer you run, the more you're trying to save. And, you know, at a certain point, if you're both trying to save, then, you know, you don't really have a chance to make a good push. So I'm thinking that Wyatt Roberts, as we see now under 3 seconds there, trying to do his best to just chop away little by little towards the lead.
I mean, you have to think about what is the time to push, and, you know, how long can you push before, you know, you start to see that fall off start to affect him, and you see the 12 just getting off the racetrack for the 42 there. Once again, really cool to see that. But you know, once again, we're seeing this time and time again where Wyatt's just a little bit quicker in some parts of the track and Cameron's just a little bit quicker in the other, right? Saw him get it underneath 3 seconds, but now Cameron is kind of in his sweet spot on the track. He pulls that back out to about 3.5 seconds, right? And now Wyatt gonna have to negotiate around the 02 of Acosta, right? So, you know, everything that the 17 had to do, 42 still has to do, right? So it's just about managing the lap traffic, managing, you know, your car, right? Because now we talked about him being underneath, you know, 3 seconds. Now we're almost approaching 4 seconds now. Cameron started to put, you know.
Yeah, 4 sec. Oh, there we go. Yeah, 4 seconds. I mean, it's a big gap to have to overcome, but yeah, Cameron Rich doing a good job keeping it up front. You see that 35 car of Blake Lillian going by. A little bit of off track there. That looks like Joel Farlow maybe having some off track problems. Maybe gonna be able to capitalize here. Blake Lothian in the 35 car. He is really close now to Joel Farlow. Like you mentioned, Christian, you know, you get that post-race interview for getting that podium spot in 3rd place. And, you know, that's definitely a hot commodity for these two here, fighting it out. Going over the curb big time there for Lothian. But, yeah, just a little bit of a slip up there for Joel Farlow getting off the racetrack.
Yeah, I mean, it's allowed the Lothian to make another run at this 24. I feel like these are our two kind of tire saver drivers right here, battling it out for P3, P4. So, you know, you can't really say that one of these guys has an advantage over the other, because I feel like their advantages are both the same, right? Joel does a phenomenal job, you know, saving tires, but so does Blake, right? And like we talked about before, that's what happens when, you know, you're getting these cars in real life. It teaches you those skills, right? And makes it really easy to transfer back over into the sim, but you still see the 24 still blinking a little bit here from time to time, but not enough to cause any havoc yet. But Blake trying to run down this 24 here for this P3 position. It's by far your closest battle on track right now. Under a second here between these two drivers.
Yeah, certainly. And as we saw on that last corner, the difference in the lines between the 35 and the 24, you saw the 35 go way to the inside right-hand wall, trying to cut down that distance, that radius that he's going to have to be turning, versus the 24, who was really just tracking it out wide, turning the car, and easing his way onto the straightaway, able to get the power down just a little bit sooner and turn less. But yeah, the 35 car, I mean, he was really wheeling it down on the inside there, but it just goes to show there's different approaches to the bumps here. There's different approaches to how you handle the tires later on in the run. And so, you know, unlike some ovals where, you know, there's really only one primary line to run at times, you see here, even on the road courses, there are different lines that you can run going at different parts of the racetrack with different, you know, priorities as a 35 car. Still trying to get by the 24 car of Joel Farlow running right in front.
Joel doing a good job hitting his marks like he has all race, but it's going to be, you know, the deciding factor. And I think it's going to come down to who can, you know, run consistently without, you know, making a mistake here. And now we're seeing, you know, the 17 of Rich, the 42 of Roberts have done the best job at it, right? I'm not saying that Farlow and Lothian haven't ran a good race, but also, you know, they've hit their marks, but they just can't do it as quickly, right? And that's just, you know, that's why we talked about road course ringers and, you know, getting the most out of the car here at these road courses, right? Look at Cameron Rich, he ran well at Chicago. Wyatt Roberts, I think, had the top, 5 there at Chicago as well, and then obviously ran that race here on Tuesday, and came home P3, I believe. So, guys are just a little bit better at getting the most out of the road courses versus the other drivers.
Yeah, definitely. And Cameron Rich, one of those guys who mentioned in the pre-race after his qualifying interview, you know, he's looking for a win, right? And he would definitely love nothing more than to do it in the fashion that he's currently doing it in, you know, being the class of the field. But another person I want to draw attention to is Enrique Cucalone, down in 16th and out of the race. And I believe our second place point standing driver. So possibly some implications here, despite obviously getting the win at Nashville Super Speedway 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago rather. Enrique Cucalone just not the race weekend he wanted, down there in 16th and out of the race, out of contention for a good finishing position in the points.
Luckily, you know, already locked into the chase, but obviously want to, you know, have good finishes. You know, momentum is a thing here, and at least in my opinion, in this sport, right? And having a bad finish out early, you know, that definitely puts a dinger here, especially going into Talladega, right, where anything can happen, right? And you know, you don't want to go into Talladega feeling kind of rough and out of shape, because usually then you come out rough and out of shape. So, but you know, luckily, you know, the regular season's closing to an end. Enrique's had a phenomenal regular season here. Obviously not the finish he's going to want here, and obviously just has to get through Talladega, and then, you know, the slate's wiped back clean, and then it's up to the drivers here and these final 12 spots to go and try to race for a championship there, and while we you know, come to the chase.
Yeah, and you mentioned a good point there, Christian, about, you know, coming into Talladega rough and out of shape, and coming out of it the same way. But, you know, yeah, you don't want to go to Talladega where there's so many unknowns and so much chaos and calamity, and rely on that for points, right? You want to go into Talladega with a points buffer, if anything. You know, someone like a Bryson Bird who has multiple wins and is locked in. Somebody who, you know, runs up front consistently enough and is able to build up an amount of points that they can go into Talladega and still afford to lose if something goes wrong, right? And yeah, for some of the drivers that are not necessarily planning but going to have to rely on Talladega for points, it's definitely not the optimal strategy for a track that, as everyone knows who's been in this sport for any amount of time, is just so unpredictable. And even in the AWC Pro Series, you know, there are analogies that you can draw to real life with how crazy it can be. And so, really looking forward to that one nonetheless because of what Talladega brings, obviously, every time you go to it, whether it be in real life or in the sim.
It's definitely going to be interesting going to Talladega next week and wrapping up the regular season. Because remember, not winning your end, but it's win and get a wild card at the very least, right? Some of these drivers who are eligible for the wild card, obviously, I believe the rules state that you have to, have so many starts to be eligible for that wild card spot. Because right now your 2 wild card positions are taken up by 2 non-winners, right? And Acosta and I believe the 34 of Tal, right? So. If someone, I believe that's in that top 20, I think it's 11th to 21st are eligible for the wild card. They just need to win a race, right, to knock someone out, right? So, and obviously anything can happen at Talladega next week. We could have a lot of surprise winners. We look back and we've seen a lot of really really cool winners here recently at these. We see last season, we saw Michael Deitch go to victory lane. We looked to like the Prestige Cup Series that we run on Thursdays, where the 57 went to victory lane, and that's his only win of the season right now. So anything can happen at those super speedways, especially if you've got some people who are going to be working with you to try to get yourself into race.
Yeah, a lot of championship implications for sure with the consideration of that wild card, like you mentioned, Christian. So very much something to look forward to as we continue to take a look at Cameron Rich, and finally drops the tire off track. At least that's the first time that I've noticed today here at Sebring. But just doing an amazing job. I mean, he's basically a robot behind the wheel, just being able to navigate this racetrack, which is so abrasive and has so much diversity with the corners that you'll be entering and exiting. Then we see Ryan Ronnebaum in the 77 car, or I'm sorry, that's Jake Scarborough, I believe, in the 77 car. And yeah, he's doing his due diligence, trying to run down Lothian here. Blake Lothian in that 35 car. As you see him off track there, man, uncharacteristic out of Blake Lothian, who's had a relatively clean day today. I wonder if that was once again under braking, or if he got a little bit out of shape coming out of turn 1, trying to gather it back up. Went off track there, but wow, I mean, just like that, things can change, and Jake Scarborough through to 4th place.
Very good. This 77 will take the spot. Blake's starting to fall off a little bit here. Remember, he was right all over the back bumper of the 24 of Farlow. Now gets passed by the 77 of Scarborough. Farlow, I mean, he's 5 seconds up the road now from that 35 machine. So I expected to see maybe Blake up here inside the top 3, but still a top 5 run, a second start here in the series. Obviously ran last week at Eldora, went from last to 3rd. Whoa, a huge slide out of the 35 there, going to the S's, but yeah, still a solid run for Blake here as he runs these couple of starts here in the AWC Pro Series. Obviously, still trying to focus on getting some rides put together for the O'Reilly, the No-App Series, and I firmly believe that's what he should be focusing on more than the AWC Pro Series. Even though we love to have him here racing with us, definitely a little bit higher priority for that driver in the 35.
Oh yeah, certainly, and it's cool you mentioned earlier in the show, Christian, how the IRL drivers have just an unmatched ability to save tires, and obviously we saw there the short end of the stick for the 35 car, and the tire saving, I can't imagine, must be so different to have to adjust to going from a real life race car to the sim, right? You have to consider so many different things. Sometimes we get caught up in our own little world of the sim, right? Being able to get adjusted to a certain car and a certain track and how you manage tires, but all of that is through the digital world. And so with the consideration of someone who has the real life experience and seat time to be able to tell the difference between those two tire wear conditions, it's so interesting to wonder how that must be as a driver and how you approach that. And so for Blake Lothian to come out here, obviously, with the consideration of his career as a driver, so cool. And so very nice to see him come out here to Sebring.
I definitely agree. Sebring, I think, Blake came in here just as unexpected as anybody else. Because obviously, you might think, if he goes to another track, like, okay, he's at least maybe had opportunities to run there or test there in real life. But here, he has no experience here in a no-apps car, at least, right? He might I've gotten some experiences doing some sports car stuff. I'm not very no fan, and I respect Blake and what he's done with his career, but I haven't been caught up on you know other prior experiences he's got to do if he's done some stuff with sports cars here, maybe at Sebring, but I know definitely he is not ran here in real life in these O'Reilly machines, so definitely an unknown for him coming into tonight as well.
Yeah, and on the flip side of that, right? If you're Cameron Rich or Wyatt Roberts, you can say to yourself, give yourself a pat on the back and say, hey, I did a really good job and held my own against a pro driver, someone who's had real life seat time in a stock car, and so really cool stuff for them too. But obviously Cameron Rich just, continuing to be the class of the field here and navigating this course like no one else's business. I gotta wonder how much time he put into this track off screen, because he did say that he had a lot of practice at this track, and so based on that post qualifying interview for our pole sitter, you gotta wonder, this guy definitely came prepared here to this racetrack. So really cool to see that out of him and how much he was able to prepare for this.
And 9 to go, only 9 cars on the lead lap. That's how dominant this number 17 Toyota Supra's been tonight. You see, Bryson Bird, the last car on the lead lap. You don't hear that a whole lot here, the AWC Pro Series. But the 17's 9 more laps, and he's going to get his first win of the season here at Sebring, and won in a more deserving way. Obviously was really quick at Chicago. Ran a couple of the 1.5 miles and was really quick there. Just couldn't get the deal done there. But tonight, he's been definitely no doubt in my mind the class of the field. Got to get around this track 8 more times and in a clean manner, and don't get caught up in any lap traffic to put yourself in a bad spot here. And he's going to get his first win of the season.
Oh, spin, I think, for the 49. Oh, man.
Off the surface, luckily, right in front of your race leader. He's going to get that spun back around. Vic, not the race he wanted, 3 laps down. Now, just went 3 laps down. I'm going to get that car back on track. You see the 42, Roberts also get around him as he was looking back on track. But look at this, 7 seconds back to Wyatt Roberts. We thought that maybe Wyatt was going to bank on maybe, tire saving maybe the 17 or doing something different. But no, the 17 is just outright just fast the field. Nothing that the Wyatt, it looks like, can do here to get back to that race leader here early. So,
and another spin, the 49 again. Yeah, off track there, able to get it going again without any incident. But yeah, definitely not the last several laps of this race that the 49 car would like. You see him still out of shape on the straightaway there. Maybe a little bit of damage on that car. Certainly some tire wear. Oh man, he is just really out of shape right now.
He's really out of shape here in this 49 machine. Gonna back it into the tire wall there. We'll see how long he decides to keep it out on track there, because now even more damage to the 49. See the 70. Approach the back end of there. That's the 70 of Christopher Logan. So see if the 49 just, he's gonna let him go. But yeah, not the last couple of laps he needs out of that 49 machine. Vic Bloom, I believe, his debut here Native Pro Series. So I could be mistaken, but not the laps he wanted there. And honestly, I thought 49 was just trying to fill the car out, right? You see a little bit of left front damage, trying to, get those tires a little bit, tried to feel what the grip was like there, and unfortunately lost it again there in the turn 1. But yeah, not the night the 49 wanted there, but needs to limp this thing around for, 8 more times here, and can take that thing home knowing that he at least finished the race.
Yeah, and speaking of the guy that just went by him in that 70 car, what a showing from him, up 10 spots from starting position. Christopher Logan, I saw him off track there just a little bit, pushing it a little too hard, into the top 10 after being pretty much on the last row, I believe it was, when we were running through our starting grid. And so a really good showing for him. He was able to really just motor through this field and keep the car for the most part clean. I have not recalled seeing him in an incident at all this entire race. And so very impressive stuff out of the 70 car, the Traveler Whiskey, Dale Jr., Justin Allgaier Daytona 500 scheme, obviously adapted into the O'Reilly Auto Parts car here in iRacing, representing the 70 number. But really good stuff out of him for sure. And Another thing I was thinking is I'm not so sure that Cameron Rich won't be able to put a minute on third place of Joel Farlow. That is amazing how much time he's been able to to put on these guys, and especially maintain the pace. That's been the most impressive thing.
I mean, he's been consistently in the 15th all race. Actually, Wyatt Roberts, matched that lap time almost at 0.16 to an 0.59. So we know the 42 just has the pace. He just doesn't have it, I guess, consistently do it. But back to the 70, yeah, Christopher Logan starting all the way back outside the top, outside the top, really the top 20. I think he started 20th tonight, and what got him the good finish was just keeping the car on the track. You see a lot of fast drivers out early. Ramirez in the 98, he looked really good. Heinem Jones out early. Enrique Cucalone out early, right? Brendan Reed out early. And Vic Bloom obviously had a lot of issues tonight. Just kept the car going. The car looks clean and green, and sometimes you just have to out-survive the rest of the field to get a good finish.
Yeah, and you're totally right, and it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the race, right? Half the battle is just showing up, and for the 70 car here, Christopher Logan, he did show up, and he did do his due diligence to keep this car underneath him, and look, it paid off for him. He got a top 10, and when you can do that, it's definitely something to be proud of, and so definitely got to give props to Christopher Logan here for what will, for the time being, be a top 10 finishing spot if he can hold on to it for the last 7 laps here. But as we discussed that, Cameron Rich still putting time on our second place car of Wyatt Roberts.
Look at that.
He's going to come up on that.
He's going to lap Bryson Bird.
Yeah.
Do that a whole lot here in the Pro Series. But, I mean, that just shows, this might be homework for Bryson, right? He's going to have to work on this road course program just a little bit here. And he's still going to get a good finish here. Back? And he's going to get 9th, the top 10 finish, but still, points leader getting lapped here is not something we expected to see, but we do have a little bit of a battle brewing here further on back for the P6 spot. Fidel Fabian showed a lot of speed early in the race, starting to fall off. Remember, had that self spin, in the first 15 laps and hasn't really been able to recover. Adam Towle trying to run this driver back down here for that P6 position.
Yeah, and Adam Towle, one of those wild card drivers you mentioned earlier, Christian. And so, every position here, definitely good for Adam Towle as he's working on that chase standing for sure. But, yeah, I mean, the Fidel Fabian, I think definitely the story of what could have been, right? For how fast he was running earlier and how much pace he did have. If it weren't for those incidents that we saw him involved with earlier on, I think he might have been able to jump step up a few spots at least. But right now, yeah, you see Towle, a little bit of a slide out of the rear end there, stepping out on corner exit, but still staying in touch. I think he's definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with in these last 5 laps coming up on. You see, just in the braking zone, like you mentioned earlier in the race, in the pre-race show, Christian, just able to make up so much space and time with that space on the braking zone, and so he is just rolling that corner so well.
See the different lines there in that U-turn right there, going down the stripe there. That's something I always love to see, because especially in these cars, obviously in the sports cars and the prototypes, kind of one only line you can do. You just kind of try to wrap it, try to use up as much track as you can on exit. But here, getting a lot of cars diming the corner, try to, drive it in pretty deep and then, get it turned down and then drive it straight off to try to make up time. And I think that's kind of is the fastest line here in these big Bodie stock cars. But yeah, you look at Adam Towle here. He's battling with Acosta here for that cutoff, because you look back in the next week. If you look in the next week, right, if someone wins, it's going to be between Acosta and Towle for that last bubble spot, right? So it's going to be between the 34 and the 02. Right now the 02 sitting back there in 11th, so Adam needs to pick up as many on that 02 as he can to at least get to the 02 or put his way beyond the 02, right, going into Talladega.
Yeah, definitely a lot of championship implications here at Sebring, but it is certainly not over yet with 5 to go here. And I mean, these are some of the best battles that we've been watching for the entirety of the race. The ones in about the mid top 10 current positions, and so Fidel Fabian definitely trying to hold on here as the tires continue to degrade. And, you know, you're tired, you're in the sim, you've been racing for about an hour and a half now. And so, yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of pressure right now. But for Adam Tal, you know, he's chasing him down. He knows where his car's at. He knows where his pace is. You know, you got to feel pretty comfortable knowing that you have a shot here. If you just, you know, kind of do your due diligence, ride in line here, you know, look for a mistake, look for an opening, but, you know, just kind of stay on top of things. I think he might find himself in a good position, Adam Powell.
Yeah,
We'll see once again, Christian, like you mentioned, how he navigates this corner in relation to the 51.
And he'll go wide, and then he'll just kind of arc it down, try to get on the power a little bit more than the 51 does, or a little bit quicker, sooner than the 51. And he uses a lot more track than Fidel does, but I don't know if maybe he's just not fitting to it enough, but you still see the 51 getting away a little bit here on exit. But yeah, you look at, you know, the battles and stuff here. Obviously, 17th in the class of the field, but look at these battles here, and you know, with 5 to go, these are the battles that you have to make here. Get yourself into a spot to win a championship. Obviously, now that 51, obviously he had a lot of pace. He's gonna have to win his way into that bubble spot here going into Talladega next week if he does decide to show up. And obviously, you know, something we talked about in the crew race. No, Brad Bennett, if he shows up at Talladega, he might be in the spot to where he has to win his way into the chase.
Yeah, certainly. And a little bit wide there for the 51. He's gonna drop some tires off into the dirt there, into that short left and right hand turn section. But yeah, I'm thinking, you know, Tal is a bit quicker in this infield than Fabian. Fabian just able to get that corner exit on the last turn onto the straightaway from the U-turn onward. You see just how much the 34 is able to close in.
That's one thing to get to him. It's one thing to pass, right? Especially when at 51 just a little bit better on these harder braking zones. And unfortunately for the 34, that's the, you know, the last couple corners are, you know, those hard braking zones to try to get the little bit most out of the car. It looks like that 34 just has a little bit more finesse than the 51. 51 can just kind of push a little bit harder in the braking zones than this 34 is at least willing to do right now. Still the best battle on track here. This 34 and this 51 is, oh, Adam trying to peek a nose in there. Not going to quite do his,
oh no!
For the 34.
Oh, he was so aggressive on power down. Oh, I hope that didn't absolutely destroy his tires, but I should know better. That definitely took a toll, and you can see it right there.
He laid down rubber there on the exit down here in Sunset Boulevard. So, I mean, he laid down a literally line of tire marks there. So, hopefully he's got a little bit left in the tank here to get back to the 51. I think he's got the speed to do it. Does he have the tires now after that big slide?
Yeah, and if I'm the 51, I'm wiping my forehead. I'm thinking he might get a chance to get further close to me, and I'm thinking if he makes it back up there, he's probably not going to make that same mistake again. He's gonna find an opportunity. He's gonna take it because he almost threw it all away right there.
And I think that's, once again, we talked about it, that frustration starting to build, right? The 34 knows he's a little bit quicker, cannot get around the 51. You know, you can see he's already closed back into the back end of this 51 through the infield, through the more, you know, finesse side of the track here. Just cannot make the pass work when we get down here in this kind of second half of the course.
Yeah, he is there. And now I think you're going to be talking about the mind games again, Christian, right? Where do you try and, you know, out-psych your opponent? You see, once again, the 51 just really taking the conservative line, going straight through the curbing. And, I mean, it's certainly an approach, but for the 34 car, you know, he realizes, you know, hey, I'm going to keep it on the track here, keep my tires clean. I know I overcooked it on exit coming up here, going on the backstretch, so, you know, what do I do differently, right? And, you know, if there is an opportunity to pounce on Tao, you got to do it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, obviously with 3 to go, there's not a lot of laps left to get it done. He does it again there.
Oh, man.
Down in the power there. Fool me once, shame on you. You know, fool me twice, you know, shame on him, right? You think, you know, you got to learn now. You got to be, you already spoke the tires there. You got both of them super loose there. The essence here as we go down Sunset once again. Got to be conservative here. right? They're a little bit better. You still see that thing moving and, trying to walk around the track there as he gets on the power.
Yeah, it's just a little bit squirrely on exit. I mean, and you could tell, he was basically pointed straight, but on power down, it's so difficult to just keep that car from stepping out with the rear end. And if you come to 2 to go here, this is going to be all out. You see him sliding mid-corner there, a little bit of a power slide. I'm not so sure he's going to be able to catch back up, but as we said earlier, Christian, he was able to really close up in the first few corners here. So
yeah, well, we're going down to nitty gritty, right? The 51's out the playoffs. He's not racing for anything. The 34 is trying to stay in that top 12 in points. He can close in. You might have to see the chrome horn come to effect here if the 34 wants by, right? Does he want the spot more than the 51? The question. Or is he okay right now running in P7, trying to take the points where they're given, and just letting the 51, I wouldn't say get away, but he's not gonna be willing to do something egregious to get around.
yeah, definitely. So one battle to look out for here. And meanwhile, Cameron Rich still the class of the field, putting a 10-second gap on Wyatt Roberts. You see him, just no one in sight. You saw Wyatt Roberts exiting the last corner there, the U-turn onto the front straightaway as Cameron Rich enters turn 1. And you can see he's not even using that curb up. He's going real easy here still. So just taking care of his car, not overcooking entry at all by any means. And so he's really been able to, get the fruits of his labor from taking care of his equipment here, because he does not look like he's out of shape like those guys we were just following along with further back in the top 10. So yeah, really great job out of Cameron.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why he's been able to pull away, is that he's done a really good job saving his stuff, right? Not using the curbs. He's keeping it, for the most part, on the track, right? Because even though the curbs might be quicker, right? If you hit them wrong, that's, I would say a 0.5% off the tires, right? Every time you take the curbs wrong and you slide the car, right? But you don't see the 17 really, being aggressive, at least if he is on the curbs. He's not being aggressive on them, right? He's using them to help turn the car, not using them, almost cut the track like a lot of these drivers are. That's what saves the tires, right? It's by just knowing how to take the curbs and knowing when to take them and how aggressively to take them, right? And you see him that little bit of an off track there, going a little off track to get those rumble strips, but just enough to keep the car going.
Yeah, certainly. And the curbs are your friend if you use them that way, because the curbs are unchanging, right? The curbs are there. What's changing is your approach to it and how you attack them. If you're going to be aggressive, then they're going to be aggressive in return. But if you're going to try to work with them and you're going to be, friendly on approach, you're going to, just glide over them and, be nice to them, for lack of a better term. They will accommodate you in response. And so for the percentage degradation you just talked about, Christian, that really puts it in perspective of, how much tire wear you could be throwing out the window based on how you approach the curbs, which is, almost is something that you'd think is insignificant. But as we take the white flag here at Sebring, Cameron Rich is going to be able to, just check the box on a win here this season, I believe, if he's able to keep it clean this last lap.
And one more lap here for Cameron Rich, 13, almost 14-second gap back to P2. Like Fidel Fabion's going to hold on to this spot. Another big mistake out of the 34. But I have traffic up ahead here. I mean, this isn't a short track here. I mean, it's not like a mile and a half where you've got to limp at home here. He might get to the back of these lap cars, allow this 34 to get back to him.
Yeah, certainly a possibility. As we see, I believe that's the 70 car, Christopher Logan, already a lap down here. They are going to be coming up on him.
They're catching Blake Lothian.
That's right.
These guys haven't even taken a white flag yet, so.
Yeah. They got a whole lap to go.
Yeah. Good to see, who can hold on, who can't, Once again, Cal with another mistake. He's closed it back down underneath the second. He was about a second and a half. And we went back to this battle because I thought it might have been too little too late for this 34 machine, but they are catching the lap cars here. And they still, like I said, they have a whole lap to go here. They're getting the white flag now. Still, have a little bit of time. Oh, man. A little off track for the 34 there.
Yeah, that front end just really wiggled back and forth under braking. So not the handling that you want right now coming to the white flag for these drivers. But it ain't over yet.
Definitely not over yet. But we'll go back to the race leaders. He's so far out in front. He's taking the last couple corners here, coming down Sunset Boulevard for the final time. Cameron Rich led every lap this race. Qualified on pole. We talked to him. He was super confident in this car tonight, and we know why. 16.5-second gap back to P2. We'll see the 77 take the final corner for the final time here, coming down the front stretch here to take the checkered flag. Go ahead and give it to him. Cameron Rich will take it and dominate here from Sebring.
A little bit of a celebratory swerve back and forth on the front straightaway here at Sebring Raceway. An amazing win from Cameron Rich, and following him, Wyatt Roberts. I mean, you got to give him his roses here, man. Just an amazing showing out here. Did a great job in qualifying, did a great job in race pace, and I mean, he'll definitely have the finishing position to speak for it. But Wyatt Roberts, once again, with a great finishing position here in the AWC Pro Series.
Still chasing that first win, fortunately, but he's got one coming. I know it. Too talented to go winless here for a while now, right? Obviously, he's been so close now, so he's got one coming sooner or later. But you saw the 17. Burning that down here. We still have cars still trying to battle it out here. I mean, this is how much of a gap that 17 had put. Now here comes your last podium finisher here, Will Farlow, as he comes around the last corner. He'll get a good finish for himself. Another podium spot for this number 24 Arctic Esports team.
Great showing from Joel Farlow to come home third place here. Awesome stuff, man.
Scarborough, B4. Have to go back a little further back. Adam Towle. Oh, man. Fidel almost got there. Fidel almost got there, man. It's the 34.
Oh, no.
Get it going back straight. Blake Lothian comes home P4. No, P5. Still a really good finish for that driver. Fidel P6, Adam Towle P7. Here comes the last driver here on the lead lap. Otto Gamera. Come home P8 here. Another good run for the 23. He will continue to extend the gap to the cutoff here. Gamera, good P8 finish. Everybody else a lap down. So, Berto. Oh man, good shit to the back of the 53 of Bryson Bird there, but everybody else finishing a lap down here. That's it, you know. Cameron Rich takes it here. Sebring.
Yeah, great stuff from them, and I mean, you just saw Cameron Rich just in a world of his own the entire race. I mean, he had so much rubber left on those tires. I'm sure he had more tire left after that burnout than some of the other competitions. So, I mean, just a class of the field for sure. But yeah, gonna be really interested to talk to your top three drivers here pretty soon. But yeah, we're gonna be starting with third place, and yeah, Joel Farlow will probably have a lot to say about his finishing position in that 24 DuPont throwback scheme. Yeah, for sure.
We were asked to take a quick ad break here as we remember no race control here for the Pro Series. Our race control is out. So Jake Scarborough actually has to manually go through and set the points here because of no race control. There is a thing where you can get a penalty here when it comes to the pit road, right? We saw the kind of the issue rise there in Chicago Street with Steven Maggio. Obviously that was done live, but no race control. Jake Scarborough, league owner, comes home P4, but we'll have to look through all the pit road stuff. So we're gonna take a quick commercial break, allow Jake and the race control guys to go down there and try to monitor the pit road stuff. But we'll be right back after that break.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome you back here to Sebring Raceway here for the post-race show for the AWC Pro Series. Cameron Rich dominate here from Sebring, Florida, but like Matthew said before we came to the break, I think we have Matthew back down there. Oh, actually, I will grab Joel Farlow back here in P3. Hey, Joel Farlow, it's Christian up here in HP. Got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, a P3 finish for you, and what a race. Started back there in P12, methodically drove your way up to the field here. Obviously, Sebring, a new track here for the AWC Pro Series drivers. Walk us through your race tonight. Walk us through what got you up here inside of a podium finish.
Yeah, I think what it was, I didn't get a good qualifying lap. First one was the one I got, and the second one, I just really messed that up. For the race, starting back there, just trying to stay out of the incidents, not run over anybody, did that, and just as the race went on, I just slowly picked apart some guys. And on strategy, me and Blake, we both pitted on like lap 16, and we were going to be very close on fuel. I was about 0.2 short, but everyone that was behind me were also just a little bit short, so it all turned out fine. Just trying to make sure on this track, especially I think it's an old airport, not repaved in a long time, so you got to really keep the rear tires on it so you can have some drive off the corner.
It definitely looked like a struggle to get the power down, especially here when you guys put a lot of especially towards the end of these runs where you guys put 15, 17 laps on these tires. It definitely looks like you guys were slipping and sliding around there. But walking us through, you're kind of on an island of your own for the most of the race here. So obviously, I feel like at least for me, it's a little bit easier for me to continue to push the car when there's a rabbit to chase. But for you, didn't really have that rabbit tonight to chase. What do you have to do to continue to try to get more pace out of the car to keep putting yourself in the spot to get these good finishes at these road?
I don't know. It was kind of funny because the first time I got clear traffic, I passed the 22 on the front stretch. Going in the one, I blew the corner because I hadn't ran any laps in the race without having anybody in front of me, so I always used them as a brake marker. But after that, I just started dialing it in, and all I was thinking, just some guys in front of me, how am I running them down? Am I sliding the tires too much? That's what one thing is. I was just making sure I didn't slide them, and if I hit my marks correctly, I could run down the guys in front of me. That's kind of sounds simple, but it's harder than it sounds. But that's all you got to do, really, is just hit your marks. Don't spin the tires coming off corners.
Nonetheless, still a good finish. Not throwback scheme, yes, but Talladega, obviously, not a lot to expect. Obviously, Talladega's always Talladega. Next week, trying to try to get yourself into like a safe spot here when it comes to the outlook. Talladega.
Well, every super speedway race we've won, or not won, I should say raced, because I have only won one of them. It's all about winning the pole. For us, for me, I personally put myself win the pole, and then do about anything I can to just win the race. There's really no play it safe. It's just go as hard as you can, try to win the race.
I feel like that's really at the end of the day, you to a point, right? The race is kind of out of your kind of where you put yourself in a spot to get through try to get a good finish. So I do like that mentality there going into finale from Talladega, but coming home P3 tonight, definitely going to be a good momentum boost going into next week when we go to Lincoln, Alabama for the season finale. But once again, Joel, another congratulations on another podium finish here. This time from Sebring. Before we let you go, anybody you want to thank, shout out, or appreciate for this run tonight here in Sebring?
I just like to shout out my art designer, Alex Wheeler, for making a beautiful Rainbow Warrior throwback paint scheme for us. We're going to be running that next week too. Hopefully get some of that good old Hendrick speed back in the 90s in it.
We definitely appreciate your time up here in HPT. And congratulations, Joel, to you and that whole Arctic team for a good run tonight. And hopefully we can talk to you once again a couple spots better up there in Talladega.
Yeah, sure thing. I'll go do it.
We'll talk to you next.
Okay, I'll see you.
Joel Farlow comes home P3, and I think Matthew has P2 driver White Roberts down here, Big Road.
Wyatt Roberts coming home P2. A really good showing for you, starting second here in the AWC Pro Series at Sebring. But just walk me through qualifying first of all, and then race pace from then on out.
Yeah, so qualified second, just a few tenths behind Cameron Rich, unfortunately. So gave him the pole position. But race start went pretty smooth. First stint, I was saving some fuel to get an extra lap, and also I was being a lot more gentle, conserving the tires a lot more. But I entered the pits on the same lap as Cameron, about 5 seconds behind. So on the second stint, decided to push the car a little bit more. Got the fast lap of the race, and that stood, so I get the bonus point for that, which is great. But unfortunately, like I started to make up a little bit of time at the very beginning, but those last like 5 laps were terrible. The rear tires were just destroyed, so had no pace left in it. It was just hold on and I guess deal with second. Really was hoping Cameron Rich would have some kind of mistake, but no, he kept it good. I mean, he had like a couple little moments, but nothing big enough for me to catch up 10 seconds or whatever. So,
Yeah, certainly. And I know that we were talking about it on the broadcast, Christian and I, but you raced in a slide job earlier this week, and were able to get some seat time there. And we noticed that you joined in the practice session a little bit later, but were able to set a really fast time. So do you think that that seat time helped you? And do you think that that also may have either helped or hurt where you came to this track and approached it because of the differences in the track conditions from when you raced earlier in the week versus now?
yeah, I mean, I think it definitely helped. Um, but it was different. This track was a lot hotter, so it's trickier, and also the setup was different. And the setup, this was definitely a trickier, harder to drive setup, and I thought the slide job racing league setup, I thought that was pretty balanced. I mean, the tire wear wasn't bad at all, but getting the AWC Pro Series setup, it was sliding the rear. Even if you drove it careful, it was destroying the rear tires. So it was tricky, and tire conservation obviously mattered in the end. So yeah, I think it definitely helped though. And I mean, also other than the league races, I mean, I've done Sebring 12 hours and some IMSA cars too. So I definitely need the track layout, and I know my lines are on the turn.
Well, we certainly had a good time watching you up here, Wyatt. Before we let you go, we just wanted to give you an opportunity to shout out anybody for your finishing position here at Sebring, as well as talk a little bit about your paint scheme. It was a pretty cool blue and white car.
Yeah, we got the Milo's Lemonade, as you've seen on Uncle Rob's one of his new Instagram reels. But does the
Yep.
body good, quenches that thirst. Um, but yeah, it was pretty fun. Uh, Running the Milo's Lemonade. Like last week, I did the regular Milo's car. So, but yeah, as always, thanks to my dad for watching the broadcast races since I've ever started league racing. Was hoping to get a win today, but they're very few and far between. I thought I had a good chance, but Cameron Rich was just a little faster. But yeah, also shout out to Circumference Ultimate Motorsports. Um, Bryson had a good race today. Unfortunately, Enrique had a technical issue, and yeah, it's just unfortunate. He's trying to go for the regular season championship. And then I guess lastly, instead of Adrenaline Motorsports, I'll shout out Adria Esports because we're in the middle of the Nürburgring 24 hours with them. I started their race. That's why I actually joined the session a little bit later. But hopefully we have a good Nürburgring 24 together.
We appreciate your time, Wyatt, and definitely looking forward to talking to you more in our post-race interview segment of the broadcast, and hopefully one more finishing position higher. So best of luck to you in your future races, and thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
Wyatt Roberts, again, bridesmaids here from Sebring, but I'm going to talk to the man of the hour, and we'll graphic for him. See this 35 to 36 laps led here. The only time he didn't lead was when he on pit road there. Let's talk to the 17, Cameron Rich. Hey, Cameron, is Christian and Matthew up here in the HPTV booth? You got a copy?
Hello. Yes, I do.
Well, first of all, Cameron, congratulations. Your first win of the season here. You know, you came close a couple times, but not only did you win, you dominated tonight here from Sebring. You know, qualified on the pole. We talked to you a little bit before the race started tonight, and got a lot of confidence in the car, and definitely showed it tonight. Obviously leading 35 of the 36 laps here from, well, actually all 35 because the 36 technically was that out lap. So, but regardless, leading every lap of the race tonight. A 17.5-second gap back to Wyatt Roberts. Just a dominant performance for you in this whole 17. Walk us through what had you on top tonight.
Yeah, that first run was just about saving fuel and saving the tires, making sure that you didn't slide the car. That everything was just so sensitive tonight because the track was so hot. I mean, I think it was like 130 some degrees to start the race there. So I think Wyatt there was saving as well. I was talking to him a minute ago, and yeah, we were kind of on the same page. It really didn't matter in the end, that extra lap that we got, but it was nice to be able to just I think we had a pretty big gap once we pitted there, and after we pitted, after I knew that I was going to be good on fuel, I just kind of eased into kind of making sure that I was hitting my marks and kind of running like a 99% pace, not too much there, but just enough to kind of in the first run to kind of manage the gap there to Wyatt. And then the second run, I just kind of let it loose, and that's kind of where the gap came into play. So it was nice. It was nice. Love this track. I've done so many laps here, and I think I've done like 5 or 6, like Sebring 12 hours, and just other races here. So it's a great little track. I love running here in any car, and it's nice to get a dub in something tonight.
Kind of talked about it a little bit, even in the pre-race with the weather and the track temp. Obviously, I felt like everybody outside of maybe front two were making mistakes and stuff, and all of that. You know, going off track, going that. Obviously, in Wyatt, you know, he talked about he's done a couple of 12 hours of Sebring and stuff. Do you think that was just the edge you guys needed to, start to pull away from the rest of the field and just kind of be a little bit more mistake-free versus some drivers who might not just know the track as well as you guys do?
Yeah, and I think I think Wyatt as well. Really in the GTPs especially, but the meta of that car on the sim now is it really loves to save fuel. So you back up your corners a lot, doing a lot of lifting, coasting there. So I know that I think he probably was as well. And it kind of helps hit your marks a little bit too. So you back your corners up, and then you can kind of like adjust from there. Just find a good pace to run, and that really helps because these tires, I mean, they overheat after a lap. They become basketballs, and then it doesn't drive well at all. So it's like driving with an egg on the throttle to try to keep the rear happy, but happy that I was able to do that tonight. And that second run, the car really just came alive, and just being able to run the pace I wanted to run without worrying about fuel, it was really nice to be able to just kind of zone out and kind of just kind of zone into Sebring a little bit. Just having done so many laps here in those endurance races, it's really just a track where you can just fall into a rhythm and just kind of, get into a zen state. It's such a fun track. I love it.
Definitely a lot of fun watching you and the rest of the field. Take your turns here. Obviously, the inaugural race here at Sebring in the AWC Pro Series, so that's something you can say as well. You won the inaugural race here, here from Sebring Raceway. But yeah, obviously we saw everybody slipping and sliding all race, and were able to outbest them, and obviously leading every lap of the race. Nothing much more I have to say. Just dominance here, you and the 17 team. So once again, congratulations not only winning the inaugural race, but winning your first race here in the AWC Pro Series. So another congratulations to you and the whole 17 team. But before I let you go, Cameron, anybody you want to thank, shout out, or appreciate for tonight's win here from Sebring?
Yeah, you guys for broadcasting every week. That's really awesome, and I had much respect. Jake for putting everything on. Everybody at Redux. Dan wasn't able to be here tonight. Race control or any. I know he's doing something with his now girlfriend. So good luck to him on that. Everybody else, Fidel, Noah, Adam. Shit, I think Kynan as well. Some others that I'm probably forgetting. I'm just blanking out. Ty. But yeah, just a really cool little deal, and kind of a last minute decision for me to race. I was originally going to race control, but it sounds like that really wasn't needed too much anyway. So I think Talladega's next week. I don't like super speedways that much. I generally would rather go to a dentist appointment than race a super speedway sometimes, but I might do it just for the heck of it. We'll see.
We look forward to seeing you potentially on track there from Talladega next week to potentially go back to back. You never know. But once again, congratulations, Cameron, on a win here from Sebring, and hopefully we can talk to you some more up here in the HBTV booth for the post race show.
Thanks, guys.
Cameron Rich comes home victorious from Sebring, and Matthew obviously just borderline dominance for the driver of the 17th night. Led every lap, and it was just no contest. The drop of the green.
Yeah, and I mean, pretty much everything we talked about in the pre-race and during the race, Cameron Rich was executing, and we talked about tire saving, we talked about getting on and off pit road clean, we talked about having to navigate the lap traffic, and there was a lot of consideration, even with the fuel mileage that we were talking about, and pushing it long, and just having to do a one stopper. And we didn't really know what to expect coming into this race, because obviously we don't see the O'Reilly cars race here in real life. We don't see any stock cars race here in real life, and so to be able to come here and then see all the different approaches from different people, from the drop of the green flag, but Cameron Rich to just be able to put basically a minute on the field, second on back, just amazing stuff out of him. And we're usually used to seeing some other guys be pretty dominant here, and so to see a fresh face who's shown speed on other occasions, but hasn't pulled off a win until today. Everything was just perfect for Cameron Rich today. So I mean, you really can't say any more than that, really. But we also had good battles further back in the pack as well, and so that was really cool to see, as we saw people jockeying for mid to top 10 and further on back. Those were the really exciting moments. We saw some 3 wide. We saw Bryson Bird, our points leader, get shuffled around, as well as our second place guy, Enrique Cuculon, in the championship, be out of the race. And so, a lot of different championship developments. And, yeah, it certainly wasn't a barn burner of a race, so to speak, but we got pretty much everything you could possibly want out of a road course with the circumstances we had here. So really cool to see out of everybody. And, yeah, I mean, it was great stuff.
Expect to see drivers come out and dominate the road courses. When we come here, right? We call them road courses for a reason. We saw it with Gavin Austin at Chicago Street. We saw it with Cameron Rich tonight, right? Those drivers, I'm pretty sure, led every lap from the drop of the green flag, and we saw it once again tonight here. But what a way to continue to wrap up the end of the regular season. Matthew, go to Talladega next week, a track with so much unknown going into there, where anything can happen, anyone can win, right? It's going to be interesting how they wrap up the regular season there from Alabama.
Oh yeah, and Talladega obviously one of my favorite racetracks to watch a race in, and commentating, you always got to be on your toes, but for the championship point standings, it'll be really interesting to see how the guys that are on the outside looking in approach a race like that where there is so much uncertainty, like you mentioned, and there is not the same approach as any other oval or really any other track, period. And so with that in mind, a lot of these guys are going to have to do their due diligence and play the long game, right? You got to be able to be in the right place at the right time, but the big one is always out there, and so you can really only give yourself what you allow yourself in terms of positioning and it's pretty much a level playing field. Anyone can win, and so we may see the wild card drivers pretty much throw a curveball here and shake it up when it comes to Talladega, and so that definitely something to look forward to for sure.
They'll definitely be interested what these drivers can do going into Talladega. A lot to gain, a lot to lose. Definitely regularly season. But look further on due here for HVTV tomorrow. We'll be back here for the ISNF Cup Series. They go to Texas Motor Speedway. They continue their chase there from the Texas Motor Speedway there in Fort Worth, Texas. And then later that night, TV After Dark will be doing trucks. The Craftsman Truck Series, I believe, at Kansas. And then we'll be doing Next Gens at Martinsville. So if you guys are just some fun hosted races or want to be like Matthew and try to call a race up here in the booth, try to open it up to the can. There for HVTV After Dark. Back here, around the block here for Monday as Riley Maxwell, Gavin Austin will be back in the booth for the UIS Truck Series as they get ready to kick off their race of the season there at Daytona, commonly known for kicking off seasons. And obviously we'll be back here potentially, for the Prestige Cup Series there. They close in on as they actually start their second round of the round of 8 there from Roval. So going to be an interesting be right back here next week for Talladega Super Speedway to end the regular season. So for everybody here, myself and Matthew Perchatsky up here in HV, we appreciate you guys coming out and watching another race here for the AWC Pro Series here from the Sebring International Raceway. If you guys are looking for any work for us here on HVTV, make sure to email us at hvtvbroadcasting@AOL.com, or we do have the AWC, the HVTV Discord link down below. If you just want to join the Discord, that's fine. Or if you need to get a hold of me, I feel like that's the easiest way to get a hold of me. If you're looking for us to broadcast anything, if you're looking to, maybe join the broadcast booth like Matthew and lots of other people here for High Velocity TV that come up here and call a race. I definitely very much think it would be a good idea for anybody to at least try it once, right? To see if you like it. If not, or if you want to do some more stuff for the network, whether it's production, whether it's graphic design, we are looking for producers, graphic design. Get their feet wet. They gotta work under a network situation. If that's something you want to do, your future path, maybe for the network or working in the industry, more than welcome to have guys come in here, step in, get their feet wet. But once again, if you guys are looking for any kind of work that way, you can either email us at hvbroadcasting@com or join the High Velocity Discord server, which we have linked down below. We also do have the AWC Pro Series Discord server linked down below. If you want to race here in AWC Pro Series, obviously thought tonight, really good racing throughout the whole field. And I definitely recommend it. A lot of good drivers here, and it's a well-ran league. Lots of good people here as well. But also, down below, a good partner of us here on High Velocity TV, Delta Designs. We also have his Andreas or Diego's Twitter posted down below. If you guys are looking for any graphics or custom schemes, he does a phenomenal job here. He obviously a lot of stuff here outside that you guys don't even maybe know about here for the network. Does a fantastic job. On top of that, a phenomenal paint scheme maker. So if you guys are looking for any graphics, paint scheme, even simple animations, make sure to look for Delta Designs there for your commission needs. But once again, from everybody over here at High Velocity TV, and my name is Christian Delgado alongside Matthew Jasky up here in the HVTV booth. You have watched High Velocity TV production, the AWC Pro Series. Hope everybody has a great rest of the Friday. Soon.